That alone, verse number 86. The body and all similar things have no being one in another, and become untrue for that reason. Another part, remaining without setting from day to day, once again, as the true form, attains perfection. Commentary. The previous verse brought up a very important point. It is essential to establish the true being of the items that are part of our experience. What is true is occasionally difficult to discern, but our happiness and in fact the very meaning of life depends on our doing this correctly. Two special terms are used in Sanskrit to represent truth: Satyam and Ritam. Not only is there truth, but that truth is capable of asserting itself to the extent that it cannot be denied. When it is just truth, it is called Satyam. When it is also asserting itself, and we are cognizant of the fact it is true, it is further qualified as Ritam. The truth of our existence is always there. Of course, when we are sleeping, the truth of our existence is not cognized by us, and when we are absent-minded, the cognizing of truth is not emphasized. But when we are awake, we make judgments and assert the positiveness of every experience by saying it is. Every time we say it is, or for that matter, it is not, an aspect of truth is underlined. When we go on saying is not, is not, it is called Ritam. In the first part of this verse, the Ritam, or the undeniable truth of experience, is examined. There is a reference back to the question discussed in verse 85. The pot has a body, but does it have existence? At first sight, we agreed that the pot exists, that bodies exist. Then we looked for the beingness of the pot. We have the knowledge of pot, but what is the beingness of it? When we looked for the beingness of the pot, it became ephemeral and disappeared. What is truly there is clay. Before the pot was made, it was clay. While the pot exists, it is clay, and when the pot is broken, it will still be clay. There is a duplication of beingness in the being of the pot and the being of the clay. The being of the clay is transferred from our minds to the substance. If we are seeing separate entities like pot, jar, vase, plate, and so on, they are all separate ideations that we project on the one reality which continues to always be the same, the clay. Therefore they have no Ritam. They are unritam, untrue. When things are taken separately, unritam is bound to be there. Back in verses 36, 37, and 38, we discuss sama and anya. Knowing things separately is called anya, while knowing things unitively as one is called sama. Sameness and otherness are the two categories which decide what has satyam and ritam and what does not have ritam. At the age of 6, Socrates had a small body, weighing perhaps 20 pounds. At the age of 12, he was maybe 4 feet 6 inches and weighed about 80 pounds. At 40, Socrates was a fat fellow of maybe 150 pounds, and towards his death he became an emaciated old man. These bodies all look very different, and the stuff they were made up of was also different. How can we say that it was the same Socrates, materially or physically? The physical aspect is anartham. Was Socrates not existing all through? Yes, of course. We don't look at Socrates as being different as a child from what he was as an adult. All the stages of life are to be taken as one, unitively. The separation of bodies, the separation of entities, is a violation of true beingness. The person who committed a crime yesterday is held responsible for that crime today. You cannot take yesterday's person as separate from today's person. In this, the world also knows the secret of taking things unitively and not disjunctly. The Kshanika Vijnanavada of the Buddhists asks, if you look at the burning flame of a candle, is the physical reality of the flame of this moment the same as its physical reality of a couple of moments before and a couple of moments after? After all, the flame is a transformation of wax into heat, carbon dioxide and water vapor. In this process, the wax burned at one moment is not the same as the wax burned in the next. So physically, the flame is made up of different components from moment to moment. Nonetheless, in the whole event of the burning of the candle, you can't draw any line of separation. It is a continuous process, so we treat it as one. The Buddhists say it is not one flame of a candle. It is a flame series. In each moment there is the birth of a flame, the presence of a flame, and the death of a flame. They divide it up as the first third of the moment the flame is being born, the second third it is shining, and the third third it is going out. It is a series event. All of us are serial in that same sense. But Narayana Guru says that if we look at things this way, we are relegating them to anya, to the other, and then they have no truth. In the second part of the verse, he says that if something does not become totally extinct, it has existence. That is, through childhood, adolescence, youth, and middle and old age, Socrates continues to exist, day after day, without disappearing. In this process, the ground, the substance persists, while the modes and modulations vary and change. The modulating part of it is anartham, but the substance is rhythm. Here the Guru uses the term polinyarannu, which means when you turn to that aspect of yourself, there is perfection. As a seeker, when you look at your daily activities, at how you feel fulfilled or dissatisfied, at how you are depressed one day and encouraged on another, you doubt the value of your life. You need to remember this is at the level of modulations. If each day you can find a deeper level, if you can get established in the firm ground of your beingness, then you stop worrying about the modulations. You know there is a pure being which goes on and on. Your status then is that of a witness, not a doer. You are a knower, but not in the sense of one who gathers information. Egoistic performance, egoistic knowledge, and egoistic enjoyment, which are all in the transient field of modulations, are now considered as actions happening in nature, produced by nature's own laws. You do not take the responsibility of them on yourself and worry about them. The wind blows, therefore leaves flutter. It is a gnawing wind. The skin feels cold, and it feels cold. The body trembles and shivers. It's all part of nature. You do not have any responsibility for it, because it belongs to Anritam. Where is the rhythm then? There has to be something that persists all through, for the cloud to rain, the fire to burn, the wind to blow, for you to breathe, your food to be digested, your blood to circulate, and so on and so on. This mainstream of life is where rhythm is. The triple modalities of sattva, rajas and tamas, which cause special attention, attraction, and consequent binding between you and something, have their effect at the surface. You are to leave them and become the single large I, rather than the two small eyes. You become an observer of life's daily chores taking place in the outer world, and of the cyclic movement of your emotions, thoughts, and memories, which unfold inside you like a cinematographic film. You watch both the outer world game and the inner world game. You become the great witness. The transience is allowed to be, but as you know it is ephemeral and anyam, you begin to be more allied with what persists. The persisting thing, out of which day and night, silence and articulation, rest and motion, and meaning and non-meaning come, is sama. The two main attributes, knowing and being, persist. When knowing and being come together as the knowing of all and the being of all, it brings perfection. You live in perfection all the time, while you witness pervasive imperfection on the surface. The first is rhythm, the second anritam. Anritam belongs to the other, to anya, while what belongs to sama is rhythm. What belongs to the other is imperfect. What belongs to the unitive way of knowing is perfect. In yesterday's commentary, I mentioned that a friend had talked to me about a change in his interest. He has gone from wanting to be at the meditation to wanting to be at home, and I referred to it as an example of the significance of verse 85, which deals with just such a dissipation or intensification of interest. Here I can elaborate a little. The existence of everything is borrowed from the one absolute existence. All individual information about things is also illuminated by the one light of absolute knowledge. All individual likes and dislikes come from the one supreme absolute value. When a state of mind causes a division, a separation of a surface modulation from the substantive ground, then you question the existence of the experience. Instead of clarity, doubts come. Instead of happiness, boredom sets in. This is symptomatic of moving away from the center. Moving away from the center means becoming influenced by sattva, rajas and tamas. Even sattva as such is not very helpful. It operates mechanically with rajas and tamas in a cyclic manner. Nature, prakriti, always functions by rotating the three gunas. When sattva comes, you feel interest. When rajas comes, the interest changes into an emotional state. When tamas comes, you forget what the interest was in the first place. You ask yourself, why am I doing this? There is no guarantee of how long each of these various states will prevail. There are biological reasons for a state to remain and influence your system. Nowadays you hear of so many things, biorhythms, sex rhythms, and the like. In any case, your mind is not always the same. Sometimes it is heavy and sometimes it is light. That belongs to nature. Your whole attempt is to wean your consciousness as much as possible away from the direct impact of these triple modalities. On one side is Chit, the pure light of consciousness. On the other side is the reflected world of consciousness. Most of the time, you don't see how pure consciousness operates because you live in the reflections, in the modalities, away from the substance. You are caught in a shadowy existence, a shadowy understanding, and a shadowy experience of values. Being shadowy and without substance, they fail you again and again. One has to remain quiet for the clouds to pass and the sun of consciousness to shine again. Eventually it comes back, but you have to be patient. You cannot push the clouds away any more than you can push a river where it doesn't want to go. In one sense, we can say that realization comes like 10,000 suns shining all at once. It is also true that you gain ground little by little, more like the sprouting, growth, and unfolding of a flower. You cannot tell how much the flower grows in a day, but it is nonetheless growing. Like that, you gain your ground in wisdom in invisible increments. Some days you make mistakes and Prakriti wins. The next day you make amends for your shortcomings and go further. If nothing else, you have learned how nature can come and assail you when you are weak or unprepared, and the next time you will be prepared. This game is continuous. The pursuit is continuous. Growth is continuous. Realization is also continuous. Then why do we say that realization comes like a flash? It's like a Chinese puzzle. When you look at it, for a long time you won't see anything. Then it flashes, and you suddenly see the figure that was hiding. Once it shows, it is hard for you not to see it. This kind of realization comes all at once in a big flash, and we can say it is coming like 10,000 suns. But that doesn't mean that you are realized once and for all. The next situation may be quite different. Another puzzle will be presented. Then again you will look for a long time, until abruptly, all at once, it comes. Both kinds of realization are happening. There is a gradual maturing and also the sudden flash. It seems the flash gets most of the attention. The maturing part is also important, where you have to fight against the constant clouding of your intellect by nature. It's like the road workers clearing the roads of snow while it is snowing. As soon as they clear it, the snow starts building up again. So they have to do it all over again, every half hour or so. Like that, sometimes winter sets in your mind and the snow falls. What can you do? Just wait for spring to melt it for you? No. If you turn away from the clearing of the snow, it will become more and more heavily laid down. So get exposed to the discipline. And the free translation of verse 86 is as follows. The substance of one body is not in another. This fact contradicts the rejection of individual formations. As the verity of objects persists through time, their substantiality gains the status of the real.